Hey viewers, welcome to my channel Media for Knowledge. I am Professor Jayakumar Sithanandam, a retired professor of commerce and management studies. In this video, I am going to present to you about the GST registration. Under this chapter registration, we are going to see the following provisions of the Act. Section 22 deals with the persons liable for registration. Section 23 deals with the exemption from registration. Who are all the persons who are exempted from registration or dealt with under section 23. 24, that means section 24 deals with the compulsory registration. Section 25 deals with the legal provisions for applying for registration. How to apply, what are the procedures for apply. All these things are dealt with under section 25. Section 26 deals with the deemed registration. What are the conditions for deemed registrations are provided under section 26. Section 27 deals with the legal provisions for registration by non-residents and casual taxable persons. Section 28 and 29 deal with the amendment for registration and cancellation of registration. You can also revoke the cancellation. There is a provision under section 30 for revocation of cancellation order. Rule 8 deals with the process or the procedures for applying for registration. These are the legal provisions and rules relating to GST registrations. And section 22, eligibility for registrations are given. When aggregate turnover exceeds 20 lakhs in the normal case and 10 lakhs in the case of northeastern frontier states, then those persons are eligible for registration under section 22. Then business license holders in pre-existing GST law, before the implementation of GST law, those persons who are holding licenses for business, then they have to register again under the section 22. Then successor of business transferred. When a business is transferred from one person to another person, the successor should register under this section. After amalgamation or merger, the new entity after amalgamation should register under section 22. These are the provisions given for the eligibility for registration. And under section 22, they just mentioned about aggregate turnover of 20 lakhs for determining the eligibility for registration and how to calculate the aggregate turnover. The aggregate turnover should include the taxable supplies, non-taxable supplies, exempt supply, export supply. All these supply of goods or services should be included to calculate the aggregate turnover. What are the supplies which should be excluded from the calculation of aggregate turnover? That is, supplies or taxes levied on reverse charge basis should be excluded from the calculation of aggregate turnover, as well as inward supplies are to be excluded from the calculation of aggregate turnover. These are the the calculation point of view for calculating the aggregate turnover as per section 22. Section 23 deals with the exemption from registration. Who are all the persons who are exempted from registration? Let us see now one by one. When a person's aggregate turnover is within the prescribed limit as we have seen under section 22, rupees 20 lakhs and above, then if the aggregate turnover is less than 20 lakhs, then he need not register under this act. He is exempted from registration. And when a person is supplying exempted goods or services, he should have 100% supply of exempted goods or services. Then he is exempted from registration under section 23. The agriculturists who are dealing with the agricultural commodities are exempted from registration under section 23. And Government of India has notified some classifications of persons who are exempted from registration, and those persons need not register under this act as per section 23. These are the provisions given for exemption from registration. And section 24 deals with compulsory registration. Even the aggregate turnover is less than 20 lakhs. They have to compulsory register. Those categories of persons are given here. The persons making interstate supplies, then they are to compulsorily register, and casual taxable persons have to compulsorily register, and persons paying tax under reverse charge method are to compulsorily register. Then e-commerce operators paying GST on supplies made through them are also to compulsorily register under section 24. Then non-resident taxable persons are to register under the act, and persons deducting tax at source should also register compulsorily under this act. Then persons making taxable supply of goods or services as an agent should also compulsorily register under this act. The input service distributors are to compulsorily register under this act, and electronic commerce operators who are collecting tax at source to necessarily register under section 24. Every electronic commerce operators are to register under this act, and persons supplying online information services from outside India to a person in India, then he has to register compulsorily under this act. Section 25 deals with the legal provisions to apply for registration. See, when you get the eligibility, then you have to necessarily register within 30 days from the date of eligibility. That is the provision given under section 25. Then non-residents or casual taxable person should register within 5 days of their business, commencement of their business. Then the persons to register in the nearest coastal state for the supplies from territorial water. When there is a supply from a territorial water, then he has to register in the nearest coastal state. Then a separate registration for each business verticals. You have different business verticals, different business models, and you have to register separately for all business models or verticals. Though the PAN number is the same, you have to register separately for each business vertical. Then you have to register voluntarily under this section 25, though not liable for normal registration or compulsory registration. And the PAN number is a must, is a mandatory to apply for GST registration. And the non-resident taxable person should produce relevant documents besides a normal document to prove that he is a non-resident. He has to produce the relevant documents. Then the proper officer shall proceed with to register an eligible person is not registered. He will find out the eligible person is still not registered, then he will direct him to register under this act. And any UNO agency or multi-international financial institutions will be granted a unique identity number. These are the provisions given under section 25 while applying for registration. And section 26 deals with deemed registration. We'll see what is meant by deemed registration. When the application for registration is not rejected within 3 days, then it is considered as deemed registration. And you will be asked for any clarification by means of a show cause notice, then you have to reply. And if no reply within 7 working days after clarification furnished, suppose the proper officer has not replied for your clarification within 7 days, then it is considered as deemed rescission. If the application is rejected within the above said dates, there is the prescribed dates within which the application is rejected, then it is deemed to be rejected. These are the provisions for deemed rescission as per section 26. Section 27 deals with the provisions for rescission by non-residents and casual taxable person. For casual and non-resident taxable person, their rescission is valid only up to 90 days. And they have to deposit an advance amount equivalent to the estimated tax liability before they get their rescission certificate. Now we'll see what are the provisions given under the Act and rules for amendment and cancellation of rescission. Let us see the rules for amendment first. We have to inform the proper officer regarding the amendment, and the proper officer may approve or reject based on your proposal, and the application for amendment should be made in form GST REG 14 within 15 days. Then a show cause notice will be given before rejection of application. You have to reply to the show cause notice within 7 working days. And the proper officer may reject your application and pass order. And in that case, the order for rejection will be given in form REG 05. A certificate of rescission after amendment will be given by the proper officer. Then we'll see the rules for cancellation. You can apply sua motu on your own for cancellation of rescission, or at the request of the proper officer you can apply for cancellation. The legal heirs can apply for cancellation. Suppose a registered person died, the legal heirs will apply for cancellation of rescission. There are conditions for cancellation. What are they? If your business is discontinued, then you have to necessarily cancel your registration. Then when you are amalgamating or merging your entity with another entity, then you have to cancel your registration. New entity will apply for fresh registration. And in the case of change of constitution, suppose a private limited company is converted to public limited company, then you have to change the registration, for which the previous registration should be cancelled. And in the case of contravention law, suppose you are contravening the provisions of law, then the registration will be cancelled. Then if there is any default in furnishing returns, your registration will be cancelled. And when you are not commencing business within 6 months from the certificate of registration, then the certificate of registration will be cancelled. And if you have fraudulently obtained the registration, then also the registration will be cancelled. These are the conditions for cancellation of registration. Now let us look into the provisions relating to the revocation of cancellation, which is given under section 30, read with the rule 23. The section 30 contemplates that within 30 days you have to apply. If the proper officer cancels your registration on his own, so you have to apply within 30 days in that case. Then the proper officer of the scrutiny may revoke or reject the application. He has to revoke or reject within 30 days. These are the legal provisions for revocation of cancellation. What is the rule given under rule 23 for revocation of cancellation? You have to apply for revocation of cancellation within 30 days in form GST Org 31. And the proper officer may give order for revocation of cancellation within 30 days in form GST Org 22. And if there is any clarification, the proper officer will give a notice, show cause notice in form GST Org 23. Then you have to reply to the notice in GST Org 24 within 7 days from the notice. What are the rules for applying for registration under Rule 8? This is the process for applying for registration as given under Rule 8. You have to apply first in Part A in form GST Org 01 with some details required for applying for registration. Those details are PAN number, mobile, email, etc. And afterwards, a reference number will be generated, and with the help of the reference number, you have to apply Part B of form GST Org 01, and you will be getting an acknowledgement in GST Org 02. Then the registration will be granted within 3 days in form GST Org 06. These are the procedures for applying for registration, and the proper officer will verify the applications before giving approval or grant of registration. He will issue a show cause notice if there is any clarification in form GST Org 03, and you have to give a reply to the notice in form GST Org 04. Thereafter, the approval will be given after your clarification within 7 days. If there is any rejection, the rejection order will be given in form GST Org 05. These are the procedures for applying for registration under Rule 8. So far we have seen the eligibility for registration, exemption from registration, and what is meant by compulsory registration, and the legal provisions and rules for registration. We have also seen the amendment and cancellation of registration. These are the legal provisions we have so far discussed with regard to GST registration. And as far as the examination is concerned, these are the questions for review, and you can prepare these questions so that you can tackle the examinations very easily. For e-learning, visit my website www.comtutorialedu.com, and also my YouTube channel Media for Knowledge. Thank you very much for listening to my video tutorial on registration under the GST law. Thank you very much.